My name is Carlos Guerrero, aka Carlos the Contractor, and I have done hundreds of projects for home remodeling for clients. And I'm here to share with you my experiences so that you can learn a little bit more about home remodeling. So now we're talking about today about how much it's going to cost, which is the number one question people ask. Now, before I get to that information, let me give you the basics. Costs are based on three things. Labor, meaning the number of hours or days it's going to take a person to physically complete a task. Number two, materials. What type of materials do you need to be able to complete that task? And number three, equipment or tools. What kind of tools or equipment do you need to be able to perform the task? So once we determine those three things is when we could come up with a cost on how much it's going to cost to do a home remodel, to install tiles, or to do windows, and so forth. Now, when you're getting proposals from different trade contractors, they're gonna ask you what is that scope of work so they could determine those three things. After they determine the cost of those three things, they're gonna add what's called a markup. Markup meaning the cost of doing business. Basically, their cost for having an office, having a license, having insurance, payroll, and the profit. So that will be part of the markup. Once they figure out the cost and part of the markup, then they're gonna go ahead and give you a proposal for whatever work is it that you want to do. Now, the part that you have to learn is how do you get an accurate price, accurate proposal? Because what happens is that if you're not ready to get a proposal and you're just meeting different people, you're gonna get prices all over the place. In order for you to avoid that and get quality work and get what you really want, you want to be able to, number one, before you hire somebody, you want to be able to compare prices and compare the scope of work between one proposal and the other proposal. So here's a list of things that you could do to make sure that you're ready before you start calling people to your home to get prices. So number one on your list is know exactly what you want. You should take some time to know exactly what you want so that when you bring people over, you can explain to them exactly what is it that you want to accomplish. You should also have a set of plans. By having a set of plans, on the plans is going to indicate, it's going to show what is the scope of work of the project that you want to do. Number two, after having the set of plans, you basically come up with the scope of work from the set of plans. For instance, let's assume the plans are calling to relocate a kitchen. So even though the plans call to relocate a kitchen, the scope of work is not relocate a kitchen. The scope of work is really demo, doing framing, doing plumbing, doing underground plumbing, doing electrical framing, doing electrical roof, doing tile work, doing cabinets, doing countertops. So now the scope of work to relocate the kitchen becomes very big because you need different trades to be able to perform those tasks. So that's why it's important for you to know the scope of work per trade so they can understand what each person is going to have to do to get to that finished product. Another thing you want to have before you meet these people is you want to have a list of your expectations. It is very important to be very clear on what your expectations are so that they understand what they have to deliver. And finally, you want to be able to have some inspirational pictures so that you could show the people that are going to be doing the work what is it that you want, what is it that you like. Because one thing is what shows on the plans, another thing is what's on your mind and your expectations for what finished product are you looking for. When you're in the bidding process and you're meeting these contractors on your job site, it is crucial to give everybody the same information. One thing that is changed will completely change the scope of work and completely change the price. So that's why it's very crucial to have all these items down so you can provide them to the person who's gonna go visit your property and give you an estimate. The next tip is when you're meeting these trade contractors, you wanna meet them 3 to 4 weeks, no more than 4 weeks when the work is due to start. What happens is if you meet people too early in the process, you're not gonna start your project for another 6 months, then the price or the proposal that they're giving you is not gonna be valid because prices are gonna change. Things change throughout those periods. So once you're basically closer to construction, that's when you start basically bringing in your trade contractors to give you the prices per item. Now, you wanna have a realistic budget before you even start this whole thing. So it is very simple to get a realistic budget. All you have to do is, number one, you could basically Google it. You could Google how much does it cost to remodel a kitchen in your neighborhood or in your area. And then Google's gonna give you a range. So now you're basically educating yourself with a range that Google says. Number two, you could call a couple of local contractors and just have a few minute talk with them. Hey, Mr. Jones, I'm trying to do a kitchen. I just want to get a basic idea how much it's costing to do so and so. So now this information that you get from Google and from a contractor is going to be very general, but at least you're gonna be able to have a broad idea so you could have a realistic budget when it comes down to making your investment. Now, when you're getting your realistic budget, the last thing that you wanna do is you wanna ask somebody that has no experience. Like maybe you wanna ask somebody that did a project before, a neighbor or cousin, but they don't have any experience. What you have to remember is that prices a year ago are not gonna be today's prices, and today's prices are not gonna be next year's prices. So you wanna ask somebody that has today's experience, that is in the business today, that is doing the work today, that has done a lot of projects, so you could get more accurate information. Now let's assume you already did your homework, you already called a couple of contractors to your house, you already have your plans, you already have everything. Now you're receiving all these proposals from different contractors. Now it's time to compare proposals. When you compare proposals, you wanna compare apples to apples. The last thing you wanna do when you're going over a proposal is look at the price first. And this is what most people do. They go straight and they look at the price. But that's a big mistake, and I'm gonna explain to you why. If the scope of work is different, if the experience is different, if the material is different, if the equipment that they're using is different, that price is going to change dramatically. That's why a lot of times people are getting prices from different people, and somebody comes with $10,000, another person comes with $15,000, another person comes with $30,000. What happens in this situation is that when you met those three people, you did not provide the same information to those three people by not having your plans, by not knowing what you want, by not giving your version picture. So now they're all bidding different projects, completely different projects, and you want to avoid that, because that is going to cause quality of work, it's going to cause delays, it's going to basically get you what you did not want to get from the beginning. You got to remember the price is based on the scope of work, and the scope of work is based on what you want to do. So for example, let's assume one proposal says remove and dispose kitchen cabinets, but the other proposal says remove kitchen cabinets. Just that word dispose could mean thousands of dollars, because one person did not include the disposal, but the other person included the disposal. And this is very tricky, and this is why you have to be very specific when you're reading the scope of work to make sure that the scope of work is the same. We're gonna stick with the cabinets. Let's assume you wanna do cabinets, and one person is supplying and installing wood cabinets, but the other person is supplying and installing melamine cabinets. Now this is two different materials, which is gonna change the price by a lot. So if you're not careful in looking at these details of the three major things that I told you about, labor, materials, and tools and equipment, this is why the prices change so much. So you have to be very detailed and very organized and know exactly what you want, so that everybody's giving you the prices based on apples to apples. All right guys, well, thank you for watching. I hope this information was valuable for you guys. Please subscribe, sign up, and let's go.